Welcome to Cosmic Chosen. Chosen One, listen closely. What I'm about to reveal may feel surreal, even otherworldly, but your spirit will recognize it as truth. It's not a coincidence that you're seeing this message right now. The heavens, the cosmos, and every divine force at work have aligned to bring this to your awareness. A new secret society is forming, not to manipulate, not to control, but to serve you. You've endured betrayal and silence. You've watched as others celebrated your setbacks. They thought they buried you in defeat, not realizing you were a seed. The cosmos does not forget. It tracks every injustice done to you like a vigilant force that never sleeps. The receipts are in. The scales are shifting. You see, karma never forgets. But more than karma, divine justice never misses. And while they thought you were abandoned, the truth is, a new alliance has been rising in the shadows, divinely orchestrated for your protection, your rise, and your calling. They will operate quietly, move strategically, and act only at divine prompting. Their purpose? To ensure you are guided, guarded, and positioned for what's coming next. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not unprotected. The secret is no longer theirs. You are the secret. And now, the world is about to see what heaven has always known. Fact, according to behavioral psychology research, those who lie, manipulate, or undermine others often underestimate the long-term effects because they see quiet as weakness rather than intelligence. They failed to see that you are more than simply the underdog. The storm that was subtly brewing is you. Karma is now bringing a microphone and popcorn to a front row seat. Prepare yourself, because what follows will not be subtle, and it will most certainly not be private. Let's discuss why you are going to blossom and choke on the petals while being watched by the same individuals who attempted to bury you. First of all, they made fun of a seed before it developed into a forest. Since all they could see was soil, they made fun of the seed before it turned into a forest. They smiled as they saw your struggle, your quiet, and your failures. You were forgotten, buried, and unimportant to them. They saw your quiet times as a sign of failure. They didn't realize, however, that the dirt wasn't your demise. It was the setting you were in. Your roots were sprouting there. You see, people are eager to criticize things they don't fully comprehend. They just perceive the halt, not the process. The late nights, the self-doubt you battled, and the times you had to start again with confidence are not visible to them. They didn't see you till you were still learning, and nothing seemed to be working. They also determined that your tale was done. They were mistaken. You were developing while they were chatting. You were in the process of evolving into something that couldn't even be described yet, while others were occupied with talking about you as if you were finished. It's not always loud to grow. Not every success sends a message. Soil, effort, and stillness may be the first steps. However, it doesn't request permission when it makes its appearance. It has to be addressed. The people who made fun of you will now have to traverse the forest that they claimed would never grow. They won't be able to stop it or spin it, and they'll have to acknowledge, whether out or in private, that they miscalculated you and that their words didn't hold up over time. In front of them, the evidence will be unquestionable, unconcerned, and firmly established. Karma works like this. It discloses rather than merely repays. Not for retaliation, but for balance. It enables people to understand how wrong they were in the most obvious manner. They were truly seeing your commencement, even if they believed they were watching your demise. They just were unaware that seeds first seemed to be a sign of failure. Second, your wounds turned into holy blueprints. Your wounds turned into holy blueprints. Detailed maps of all you had to endure, outgrow, and rebuild from, not simply recollections of suffering. Every disappointment, betrayal, and breakdown that almost caused you to give up wasn't arbitrary. They were molding you, teaching you things about yourself that no one in your comfort zone could ever teach you. You learned how to use your own strength, not simply how to be harmed. When things went ugly, you discovered who was genuine, and more significantly, who vanished when you needed them most. That anguish revealed individuals in ways you never would have questioned if things had been comfy. Yes, it did break you in some ways. Those breaks, however, made you conscious rather than weak. The world advises you to conceal your scars as if they were defects, and that you need to feel guilty about them. The most honest aspects of you, however, are those scars. You no longer need to be flawless or unharmed. They say, "I've been through hell, and I came back with receipts." You deserve to live. You fully paid for your knowledge. And now you are gaining insight that most people do not have from those same wounds that once seemed to be endings. Your wounds taught you things the outside world couldn't, which is why you now walk differently, talk more deliberately, trust more cautiously, and guard your peace like it's gold. Hard lessons and life experiences are the blueprint. It is impossible for anybody to imitate or replicate. Now, when retribution does its job, the individuals who created those wounds are going to realize exactly how strong they really made you. Not because they wanted to, but because they sought to break someone who was born to soar. You are not ruined by your scars. You were redesigned. You now move with calm force, clarity, and purpose. What frightens them is that while they believed they were harming you, all they did was contribute to the creation of the strongest version of you. Thirdly, they weren't adversaries. They served as mentors without pay. They were not adversaries. They served as mentors without pay. They'll never comprehend that part. They believed they were bringing you down, but in reality, they were making you sharper. They were teaching you clarity, resiliency, and strategy each time they misled, deceived, undervalued, or attempted to shatter you. You didn't simply endure them. You studied them. You saw their movements, their manipulation, and their change of tactics when things didn't go their way. They also trained you precisely how not to move and who not to be without you ever realizing it. Because you didn't fight back the manner they anticipated, they assumed you were weak. You weren't weak, though. You were watching. You weren't responding. You were listening. And throughout that quiet, you were gathering knowledge that today forms the basis of your life. They made you sharper without even recognizing it. That's what unpaid mentors do. They don't steer you with good motives. Through their errors, their hatred, their deeds, and their teachings, they lead you. There is no other way you could have obtained them. Ironically, they tried to break you, but instead they made you better. That's the unexpected turn of events. They unintentionally became the catalyst that propelled you farther into purpose because they were so preoccupied with attempting to be the antagonist in your tale. They don't get recognition, but they do get acknowledged because if it wasn't for the pressure, the fire, the continual testing, you wouldn't be as sharp as you are today. You become adept at following your gut. You discovered how to leave without requiring resolution. You discovered how to quit having to explain yourself to those who are determined to misunderstand you. Above all, you discovered that survival is more than just surviving. On the other side, it's about becoming something. They gave you weapons, believing them to be wounds, but you upgraded your thoughts, your energy, and your path with each one. Now karma's kicking in, and they'll see they were never your downfall. They were the practice round. You're prepared for the real deal, too. Fourth, your ascent will have to be recounted by the same voices that deceived. Karma has a sense of humor and enjoys irony. So the same tongues that lied will have to tell the story of your ascent, not because you need their approval. The individuals who formerly misrepresented you, disseminated inaccurate information, and ensured that others saw you negatively will now be forced to face the exact thing they attempted to destroy: your power. They weren't only dishonest. They attempted to change who you are. They produced drama where there was none, inserted doubt when there was truth, and confidently assured people what you'd never become. Some of them even used disparaging you to establish their own prominence. They were unaware, however, that reality has its own timetable. It waits patiently and doesn't knock softly until it gets there. It is evident, unmistakable, and loud. Karma does more than just make amends. The script is flipped. It turns the people who formerly called you a failure become unwelcome representatives of your accomplishment. Weren't you the one who said they'd never make it? Those same people are now being questioned, and they're being made to see you shine in places they thought you would never go into. Even worse, they must discuss it, act as if they were always convinced. They choke on the words they never imagined saying. But retaliation isn't the point here. It has to do with alignment, because they might have left feeling justified if they had remained silent. Instead, life provides them with microphones and front row seats. They now have to use words they never intended to use to retract every falsehood they have ever said. Karma's interpretation of justice is characterized by terms like successful, respected, and unstoppable, making them take part in your ascent rather than only allowing them to see it. They will tell the story of the comeback they vowed never to have through clenched mouths and fake grins. And every sentence will remind them they never had the last word. Fifth, they believed your delay to be denial. It was a heavenly calculation. Your delay was seen as rejection by them. Maybe nothing at all was in store for you since things weren't occurring on their time frame. Your peaceful seasons were mistaken for dead ends by them. They saw your patience as failure and your waiting as a loss. They were unaware that you weren't stranded. You were being carefully positioned. People prefer to judge success by speed. They believe that you've lost your opportunity if you don't exhibit results right away. However, divine timing is unaffected by external expectations or public pressure. It operates silently in layers and above all, with purpose. You were getting ready to influence generations, while they were hurrying to impress. Being still is a sign of calibration, not weakness. You were sitting with the truth while others were running about looking for approval. Your intellect was being rebuilt, your heart was being healed, your instincts were being sharpened, and you were learning and unlearning. When the time comes, that type of labor makes you dangerous, but it doesn't become viral. They believed that you were being excluded, but in reality, you were being prepared for access that they would never be able to have. They didn't see any movement, so they chuckled. However, the foundation was being laid, the roots were expanding, and divine timing was bringing you to a point where no amount of connections or influence could match the entry. It's loud, obvious, and indisputable that your season is coming. Additionally, many who believed you missed your time are now acknowledging that you are it. Your ascent is more than simply achievement. It's a declaration. This serves as a reminder that denial is not the same as delay. It's heavenly preparation for an unavoidable triumph of sorts. It was never intended to disprove them. It was about waiting for the appropriate moment to confirm everything. Your victory was always intended to be noticed, but some victories are supposed to remain silent. Sixth, you were the chessboard and they were the checkers. While you were turning onto the chessboard, they played checkers. They adopted a short-term approach, believing that a few cunning moves would bring you down. Low-level manipulation, swift chatter, and quick punches. They played the game. Superficial strategies meant to elicit responses rather than outcomes. However, you were perfecting stillness while others were creating noise. You were creating something far larger than they could possibly comprehend, while they were planning their next little step. You weren't only playing more cleverly. You turned into the board. You gained knowledge of how the whole system works. You saw the dynamics of power, the covert intentions, and the true game that lay behind the theater. And you began planning forward 10 steps ahead of time, rather than impulsively responding to every provocation. You began to plan like a king or queen and quit haggling with pawns. They were afraid of it. Not only have you grown, but you have also changed your viewpoint. Because they were unaware of this. You govern the area when you take on the role of the chessboard. You're not a player anymore who wants to win. Everyone else is moving on the ground. That is you. You're no longer in the game with them, so their small-time plans don't disturb you. You're keeping an eye on things from above and directing them without having to struggle. It's not conceited. Elevation is that. Your plan was sharpened by what they believed would break you. Their strategies were short-term, but your metamorphosis was long-lasting. They believed you were still, but in reality, you were outgrowing everyone. Their drama now seems insignificant. Since they're still playing checkers, their movements seem desperate, quick, careless, and superficial, while you've perfected intricacy, forethought, and purpose. The crazy aspect is that winning is no longer necessary. The winner is you. You are the structure, the momentum, and the platform. And they're moving on a board that you now own, one that they never constructed, whether they realize it or not. The seventh is that the same people who attempted to bury you are now burying themselves. The same people who attempted to bury you are now burying themselves. They believed they were being cunning, working covertly and secretly. The backstabbing, the sabotage, the phony support, and the murmurs. They believed that nobody would ever find out. Energy, however, never goes away. It exposes, multiplies, and returns. Karma also doesn't knock in a courteous manner. It comes with receipts in tow like a hurricane. They weren't only trying to hurt you. They worked hard at it. Deliberate actions and recurrent strikes. They continued after one betrayal. They intensified their efforts. Additionally, they were fixated on your dissent while you were attempting to maintain your composure and walk with dignity. They were unaware that burying someone who is in line with truth, purpose, and resilience not only fails, but also causes a reversal. Your name is now coated with dirt from the same hands that flung it. They couldn't stop themselves, not because you reacted. The deception, the deceit, the silent jealousy. Like pressure behind a dam, it all accumulated. And it's not subtle when that dam cracks. It's not hygienic. It is unavoidably noisy and untidy. That is the way karma works. It addresses more than simply the act. It reveals the intention. Those who used to put in extra hours to make you appear bad are now struggling to keep their masks on. Furthermore, the decline is not being placed covertly. It's open to the public. They are being exposed by the same audience that they attempted to use against you. It's because the truth must be seen, not because you wanted it. Retaliation is not necessary for karma. Exposure is used. Additionally, there is no edit option or control over who may see the tape after it begins to play back. They are now starting to unravel what they intended for your ending. They didn't just bury the incorrect person. In the process, they buried themselves. What about the show? It's just the beginning. Eighthly, they attempted to flee the storm that was you. They attempted to escape the storm that was you. They believed they could misrepresent your name, change your personality, and go unpunished. They believed their actions would have no repercussions, no echo, and no weight. Like puppeteers, they tried to manipulate how other people saw you by making up tales, sowing doubts, and laughing behind closed doors. However, those who make fun of the sky are not warned by storms. They just show up. How about you? You never stop coming. They believed that you were the easy target, the silent one who wouldn't defend yourself, and the victim in their play. However, you were never only a spectator. You were change in motion. They failed to see the true power that was growing within of you while they were occupied with playing God with your tail. You weren't planning retaliation. You were evolving into something they couldn't even foresee or control. They gaslight their way through the harm they inflicted, fled from responsibility, and concealed themselves behind false grins. But storms don't miss, and truth never dies. Now the thunder is your voice, unmistakable, resounding in every area they attempted to control. What about the lightning? It's intimate. Their fictitious feeling of power is shaken by the disclosure, the justice, and the unexpected shock. It wasn't necessary to yell, plead, or coerce your way into acceptance. You just had to become something they didn't anticipate. Indisputable. Their falsehoods are now overshadowed by your presence, your development, tranquility, and fortitude. The phony image they attempted to create in your place is collapsing. Devastation is not the goal of this storm. It's time to face up, to bring everything back into equilibrium, not to punish. Everyone will realize who was really hazardous the whole time, the one they underestimated, the person they believed to be quiet, and the person who was the storm the entire time, while they rushed to revise their portion. The ninth is that they were fueled by fabricated stories. They will now choke on the truth. They were nourished by lies. They will now choke on the truth. They treated them like facts after fabricating whole tales out of presumptions, jealousy, and insecurity. They weren't only dishonest. They vowed to tell the lie, repeated it, embellished it, and confidently spread it. They painted you as less than broken, or a joke by using your name as money in talks you weren't invited to. And because the falsehood was louder than your silence, people believed it, not because it was real. Since the illusion gave them power, they felt at ease in it. It shrank you while making them feel large. They created echo chambers of illusion by surrounding themselves with individuals who shared their interpretation of events. However, they failed to remember that truth is not frightened. It isn't competitive. It waits. Furthermore, it doesn't request permission when it appears. It has to be addressed. And now the truth is coming to light. It's noisy. It's uncooked. There is no denying it. Furthermore, it doesn't give a damn about who is uncomfortable. Since it was never stable in the first place, everything they based on lies is beginning to fall apart. People are starting to notice. The narrative no longer makes sense. The energy doesn't fit the story, and the mask is falling off. And as the truth begins to emerge, it doesn't just knock. It kicks doors down. The same individuals who used to profit from spreading false information about you will now have to bear the consequences of their actions. They will have to see everything they denied come to light. Truth inherently rises like fire, justice, and karma, not because you're attempting to disprove them. They had been consuming falsehood for so long that they had forgotten what reality tasted like. And now it's bitter. It's open to the public. And it's choking them slowly but surely. Because no matter how long a lie lives, it always dies at the hands of truth. And that death isn't quiet. It's a roar. Number 10. They misunderstood your silence for capitulation. They mistook your silence for surrender. Thought because you didn't clap back, post receipts, or explain yourself, that you had nothing to say, or worse, nothing left. But your silence wasn't weakness. It was an observation. It was discipline. It was a plan. While they were performing for attention and manufacturing drama, you were conserving your energy and sharpening your focus. You weren't hiding. You were preparing. They believed your stillness was the sound of defeat, but in truth, it was the calm before something they weren't meant to manage. You decided against wasting your breath on those who are determined to misunderstand you. You were aware that arguing with them would only make you feel worse than you already were. So you rebuilt rather than reacted. You did all of your labor healing and moving in quiet. Because, particularly while your transition is still ongoing, not everything requires an audience. Now, however, that quiet is giving way to sound. Not the sound of defense or justification. The impact sound. Your victory's sound speaks for you. The noise of the rooms where you are being discussed. They claimed you'd never make it to those rooms. The same walls that previously defamed your reputation will tremble with the reverberation of your return. And they'll hear it loud and clear. What they didn't bank on was your capacity to survive the cacophony. They wanted a response. Rather, they provided you with inspiration. They were hoping you would fold. You leveled up instead. And the version of you they believed they eliminated, that version no longer exists. The new one is stronger, quieter, wiser, and less concerned about demonstrating anything. Let them speak. Give them a whirl.